So first up, we have a story that's over on PYMTs. So this is Metro, Starling, and Clearbanks are the winners of the 280 million RBS bailout award. That's one hell of an awards ceremony that they must have had for that one. That's pretty cool. But the last part of that is that CYBG and TSB have been snubbed in this one. So dust's now sort of settling on the who's actually got it. If anybody was sort of living under a bit of a rock for this one, Metro Bank got 120 million, Starling got 100 million, and Tide and Clearbank in a interesting sort of tie-up there got 60 million. Damn, that's a lot of money. What do you guys think about this?
So everybody should go and read my blog, first of all, on the 11FS blog site. That's what you should do, first of all.
Pause this right now, go read the blog, come back.
Because that's an explainer. I mean, I think that whilst some of us who are in the industry have been like watching this very closely and kind of waiting on tenterhooks, a lot of people, the actual general public are like, what on earth is this all about? I've seen a lot of funny mistakes as well. Like, RBS gives Metro Bank, 120 million. And I'm like, no, actually, it's not quite how it worked. For me, the only interesting one was Metro Bank. I think Starling and Tide and Clearbank I probably could have predicted, especially after Tide and Clearbank went at it together. Two challenger banks. Who's not going to want to reward that kind of as many as possible?
Tide and Clearbank went at it together. I'm going to have to pick you up on that one, Sarah. You thought you were going to get away with it, didn't you? But it is interesting that actually so many challengers are in this, isn't it? With CYBG, with TSB not being in it, Metro Bank clearly are a challenger still in this space.
Yeah, I think very much so. Certainly when you're looking at the business banking space, I think Metro Bank have made more of an impact perhaps there. Certainly if you look at, I know they almost in a way get criticized for being regional, but actually the places where they are places with an awful lot of small businesses that are crying out for digital services.
But do you... sorry, we're going to just keep talking about this, guys.
Jump in.
Feel free to jump in
at any point. If you disagree with us, jump in.
But isn't it interesting, though, that Tide, Clearbank, Starling are, national, whereas Metro really are just London? You
know what I'd really love to know is if Starling and Tide are national, because I know Monzo is, because I've seen their map of where their cards are registered and used, but I mean, Starling has only got 460 retail accounts to Monzo's 1.5 million. So I'd actually really like to know where their customers are based. If anybody can tell me that, I love statistics, please send them to me.
People of Tide, get involved.
I guess the question for us is how much is it actually fostering competition in that space? If you look at specifically Starling, arguably they are already fairly advanced when it comes to SME banking. If you look at the Fintech startup space at least. And I wonder how much that will give them sort of a leap forward versus other upstarts, and whether that's sort of actually perhaps decreasing innovation and hampering further startups coming out. I think that's the first thought there. The second thought I'd be curious to hear people's thoughts on is Metro Bank, as you mentioned, question of moral hazard, given the fact that they, I think just raised 350 million to plug their holes from their little accident and are now raising some further debt.
An accounting
error.
Yeah. This is what I mean. I said I'd had a busy week.
Is this where you've been essentially?
Yeah, quite a lot of it. It was. I think a lot of people were quite surprised by the choice to give them out, because I mean there was more details came out this week. The actual capital raise was a couple of days ago, but we've known about the mistake at Metro for like a month at least. It's been sort of all over the papers, and you've had big shareholders saying you should sack the chief exec, people saying you're going to have to totally cut back on your growth plans. Like, it was a bold choice to then go, yeah, sure, you sound like the best option for
I was just going to say, I think the point that we should mention is that this award was only for people who already had established business offerings. So it was not like for those startups, that's the next round. I think that's where it gets a bit exciting, to your point, Max. Like, that's where the pool B comes in.
It is an interesting point, though, that TSB have been pushed out of this, theoretically. We're essentially saying accounting problems are less bad than technology problems, essentially.
I guess if you're looking at the award is to build out innovative new services, then technology is more important than an accounting problem.
Sure, but if you've had a technology problem, you need the money to fix the problem, right?
Yeah, but I think my argument would probably be TSB have bigger problems than building out their business accounts right now.
Very potentially.
One other interesting, we were discussing this actually in the office, and someone raised an interesting point that if you are trying to foster innovation here and further competition, I guess the big question in the room is Amazon and how much can these smaller players like a Starling and Tide, etc., actually move. And someone on our team mentioned that Amazon has now this global lending business, and they can approve a loan within 1 day. 1 day. With all the merchant data that they have. And I guess then that raises the question, how competitive are actually these startups like Starling, Tide, etc., and how much does this actually move the needle in terms of the funding?
I think I'd like to hope 100 million moves the dial quite a lot, but
it's against Amazon.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You've got hundreds of millions, and Amazon have got billions, right?
Exactly.
So, but I did like the fact that Tom Blomfield, who was on the show last week, CEO of Monzo, bizarrely correctly predicted that the challenger bank would get the news wasn't even out at that point, so he wouldn't have had that information. So the fact that Tom did predict that Starling would get 100 million, I was pretty impressed with. So
he had his crystal ball out. I mean, I think from the competition point of view, and to your point about Amazon, yeah, they do lending well, but I don't think this is about lending. I don't think this is about access to credit for small businesses. I think this is more, so if you look at the proposition that maybe Starling has, it's actually only for sole traders, it's only for freelancers. Like what I've seen in my research, a lot of people are crying out for is being able to have digital banking for multi-director companies. Like there's only Coconut is the only, as far as I know, if anybody knows different, tell me, company in the UK that allows you to onboard digitally with multi-directors. It's the only one out there. And that is a huge problem that people are crying out for. And on top of that, it's less, I think, about the lending is a big part of it.
I guess I was using lending as a hook.
But I don't think Amazon are going to be able to provide the services that these businesses want holistically. Like I actually think the bigger threat is probably Xero. I think if Xero went and got a banking license, then we'd be talking about kind of like.
It's the second week in a row Gary Turner's got a shout out, and I know he listens, so he's going to get all excited while he's commuting again. So.
He did tell me they weren't going to go for a license last time I spoke to him, but you never know.
Well, we will see.